Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Here from South Florida, Miami, in the Doral Station. It's a sunny day in Miami, and it's sunnier in my studio because I have the talented, the one and only Manny Ruiz. Good morning.
Good morning, Susana. Thank you.
Oh, it's so good to see you. Like always, you always bring a smile, and I'm always know that when I see you, I'm going to learn something. And it's so great when you meet people in your life that really inspire you. You've been a mentor to hundreds of thousands of people because you have a vision, an eagle eye. You turn the corner before most people do, and you bring us there. You bring us together in unity. And that's what we love about Manny Ruiz.
Oh, thank you.
You started, born, raised in Miami.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about your
my background.
Your background.
So, I'm one of many Miami cases of Cuban American kids, children of and grandchildren of exiles. But in my case, the only difference is that my grandfather, who raised me, not my parents, but my grandparents raised me, my late grandfather, Manuel, who I was named after, came to the United States in 1914 for the first time. He was already a 20-year-old man or something like that. He was born in 1893. And later on, he would end up plucking my grandmother from Cuba and marrying her in 1941 in New York City. And then on my dad's side, he was an exile. So I'm a second generation on one side and first generation on the other. I was born and raised pretty humble means here in Little Havana. And, I am also, very proud of my heritage. But I'm glad that after many years of having been in the U.S. Hispanic media and social media and entertainment space, I'm doing something now that I really love, which is totally all about my life and my passions.
Well, let me before you tell everybody what you're going to do, which I'm super excited.
More background. Okay.
Let me just tell some people real quickly. You are Miami raised, born. You go to the university.
I majored in history. At FIU.
At FIU, and then you start getting a job as a reporter for Miami Herald.
I was a crime reporter in the early 90s. In the early
90s. At that time, you graduate from college. You start hearing more about the internet. You start to get more into this .com story that's happening to really launch itself.
Yeah, in the mid 90s, I had already graduated, and I really transitioned into public relations as a means to survive because I had gone through it. It was a really rough year for me in 95. So I did this temporarily, quote unquote, temporarily. I got into public relations and marketing, and it's kind of sucked me in. By 2000, having already worked for several major PR firms in the United States, I got the idea to launch a company called Hispanic PR Wire. And that company became the first real major U.S. Hispanic press release distribution service. And we sold that company in 2007 to a publicly traded company.
More or less?
Well, when I launched my first company, I was 30. 30. And had just been a new father. I didn't really have the money to start this, so it was totally God's hand.
So just to, because you're so humble even in telling your story. So here's a guy that comes out of FIU, does report, is working also as Miami Herald reporter, realizes the internet's going to be the biggest sensation, realizes that we have a Hispanic community is very strong and has no real voice or representation, but we do make 54% right now in our numbers, right? Documented. And so here you start seeing way early in the 90s, you start seeing the potential. So you do Hispanicize PR.
Well, before we get there, no, it was called Hispanic PR Wire.
PR Wire, and you sell it for $5.5 million, which is really, one of your first monumental steps.
Pretty mind-blowing because, we never, and actually when I started that company, I had no interest or idea that I would sell a company. I wanted it to be literally a little small business that I transferred from myself to my children in the future. I never anticipated that it would get the attention of a publicly traded company. But, it really showed me for the first time the possibilities of thinking bigger than the original dream. And then that kind of, once you stretch your mind and you go places you've never been to, you can't go back. Yeah. And that sort of happened to me with that. And then when I sold Hispanic PR Wire, I was trying to figure out what would be next. And then I launched this company called Hispanicize Media Group, And that company ended up creating, the largest over the course of 9 years. Now this is the 10th anniversary. But
That's how I meet you.
I met you, yeah.
Yeah, I met you. I think it was 2012.
2013 we met.
But I think I got a call late 2012 by some woman in New York, Lilia. And I can't remember right now. My mind is a little blocked, but they tell me that if I can do a tour for 50 top bloggers in Wynwood, and if I could create
I think it was Sherwin-Williams, right?
Yeah, Sherwin-Williams.
That's right.
And so I'm like, okay, that's not a problem. That's what we do. We're the art experience. We do art and culture, and we do a lot of corporate groups. And so I tell them, what is this for? What are the 50 bloggers? And they say, oh, it's for a show called Hispanicize. And I felt like a really bad Hispanic. I was like, what is Hispanicize? So I go online and I see your previous shows, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. It's like all these big brands. It's like Southwest.
Yeah, South by Southwest.
Yeah,
that was our model.
South by Southwest. And you have this, and it's all Ford and major banks and major insurance companies, AARP.
Best Western,
activations. I remember Coca-Cola bringing in the big soccer players. I mean, activations that are monumental. You take over 2-3 floors in a hotel.
And the funny thing is that all along, everybody assumed that I loved producing that event, but it was so hard to produce it, especially for somebody that was a reluctant. Remember, I am a reluctant entrepreneur. I know people think,
tell.
oh, you're a serial entrepreneur. I am now, but I really was a very reluctant entrepreneur because for years I was even grappling with the fact that I consider myself a journalist. I consider myself a journalist for life, actually, the way that I look at life and the way I approach things. But the entrepreneur part has come in and really become what I enjoy doing more. But when I did Hispanicize for all those years, it was always something that I thought that I liked, but it was never something that I loved at the degree that people thought. I think I had moments that I loved it, right? But I mostly wanted to do something else, which is why last year, after 9 years and about 6 years cooking this idea of my dreams.
9 years with Hispanicize.
And 6 years pregnant was something I really wanted to do. And that I saw a great opportunity for, but I couldn't.
You kept telling me in the last 2 years.
I told dinner friends,
I got to tell you something, but I can't because you got a big mouth. I got to tell you something. I remember
you do have a big mouth,
I remember you send me, when you finally told me, you go, listen, don't get insulted, but before I even tell you, I'm going to send you an NDA. You sign it off, and then I'll send you a link. I said, send me whatever you want. And so then you send it to me, and I look at it, and my mind is blown. But real quickly, Hispanicize is a major platform founded by Manny Ruiz, which is now going on its 10th year, which is huge. It's going to be in LA now.
It'll
no
be the
more
first
Miami,
one that I'm not producing.
That you're not producing. And let me tell you, you're talking about 2,500 who's who of the USA, Latino journalists, bloggers, PR agencies, CEOs, corporations, public and private, coming out and being really our USA Latino South by Southwest. And it brings so many important people from our community. Manny, you gave us a voice. You were one of the first to really give the Latino community a voice, to make companies understand through your efforts and power and empowerment. You gave many major top 100 Fortune companies to stop and say, wait a minute. We need a multicultural marketing director. That never happened before. And I think Hispanicize has a big force with all those new jobs you created.
No doubt. Listen, Susana, I appreciate that. And thank you so much for your kind words. Obviously, I didn't do this alone. I had great partners and my wife, who, especially
Angela,
with her,
amazing.
Who was hands-on, has been instrumental in that. But, I also feel that it was time to pursue a dream, for me. So I'm very proud of what Hispanicize represents. And
you left it to Lexi and
I left it to
Angela,
some of the people
and Karen,
that
some of the
founders.
founders.
Angela's no longer with Hispanicize. We're all now
Angela
invested in
and you
NostalgiaCon.
are invested in. Okay, so tell us now your new project.
No, so I'm really focused on building a venture called NostalgiaCon. And NostalgiaCon is the first platform in the world that focuses on celebrating your favorite decade. And we're creating a company that initially begins with decade takeover events. What that means is that we're doing events that bring together the fans of a decade, because everybody kind of has their decade. I'm an 80s guy especially, but I do love the 70s and I have some affiliation with the 90s. Everybody has a decade that they dream of, they think of, they feel warm about, they feel great about, and excites them. And for me, it's the 80s, and that's why the first NostalgiaCon of the ventures that we're doing is an 80s event. It's called the Ultimate 80s Reunion, and it's going to be in Anaheim, California, 5 blocks from Disneyland, September 28, 29. This is the first gathering in history of the icons and legends, from music to pop culture. So think of an event that is sort of like the Disney World, if you will, of a decade, with a lot of the celebrities from the films and TV shows that everybody remembers from that iconic decade that today continues to impact the world. And lots of concerts, breakdance competitions, retro video gaming, breakdance competition, cosplay, exhibitor sponsors. There's a lot that I learned from producing Hispanicize, but this is at a whole nother level and a much larger scale, because it's not only an 80s event. Next year it'll be an 80s, and we'll do a 90s in different parts of the country. And we see a lot of global expansion with this opportunity. And, that's part of why I'm really, really busy today, because between sponsors and then talking to potential investors as well, and all these things, it's a huge
undertaking that you're doing.
And it's funny, along the way, I get to talk to some of my own icons from the decade, because they're coming and they have to talk to somebody.
Is there anybody you could announce that's coming?
Yeah, well, we are going to have Mr. T.
Mr. T.
We're having reunions. We've announced reunions of the Goonies. We're going to have WKRP. We're working on a reunion of Dallas. And then we'll have a lot of music, which I need to leave the music as a secret, but we'll have great New Wave night. So we have 2 nights. One is New Wave night, and the other one is what we call the mixtape. Mixtape will have heavy metal, hip hop, freestyle, and pop. And those 2 nights are going to have some of the most iconic
activations and everything.
Oh, the activations will be crazy. I mean, think about it.
And how big is this center, Anaheim?
Oh, the Anaheim Convention Center. So why did we pick that? First of all, it doesn't hurt that it's right next to the family magnet of Disneyland. So that's really, really key. But also its proximity to Hollywood and all of the celebrities. Many of them literally can walk out and take off their pajamas and come right into NostalgiaCon. That convenience is very important.
And how big is the whole
the Anaheim Convention Center? We could literally have 100,000 attendees if we wanted to, but we don't expect that attendance for this first year.
The first year,
we're expecting 15,000. A lot of the lure of the music concerts, frankly, and but we think that when they see the kaleidoscope of activities, the breakdance competition, all the things that we're doing.
Do you know that I was born in the Bronx and I'm Puerto Rican and I won the national breakdance competition?
No. Oh, I would love to see that tape.
I would
do you have any tape?
do a WD-40, but I could do it for you again out there. No,
oh my God. Is this true?
No, of course not.
No, you didn't break a dance? You did break dance?
I did break dance.
Do you have video?
No.
Okay.
We couldn't afford a camera.
I would pay for video of that.
I barely have pictures of me growing up because now with the smartphones you have pictures of everything.
So I'll give you a little sneak peek.
You can have disposable cameras. Oh my God!
No. We're gonna have listen. The great thing about this event is that it hits all the generations. The 80s pop culture is not a Gen X thing, although I would expect that, of course, probably 50% of our attendees are going to be Gen X, and they have high disposable income. They're a very desirable community. But a lot of our attendees are going to be millennials. Yeah. And we'll have even younger folks, because the Gen Z and stuff, because 80s pop culture is on fire. I mean, Coca-Cola just did a 1985 reintroduction of New Coke.
Absolutely.
Stranger Things is... we're big fans of them.
Yeah, a lot of the TV shows are going back there.
Bohemian Rhapsody has made kids think that Queen is the biggest band in the world. Unfortunately, Freddie Mercury's not with us. But 80s pop culture
and now
in
Elton
fashion.
John's Rhapsody.
Elton John. Nostalgia is on fire. It's always been.
It
What we're doing is simply organizing it.
Yeah.
And
I
really
love it.
creating a great opportunity for our investors and other potential investors and partners and celebrities, and to really monetize the decade and to do something that's not national, but that's global.
You know what? You unify people. You unify people's desire, what they like, their passions. You bring it back up to the surface. And what I like about NostalgiaCon, it is diversified for all races, religions, nationality, and sexes.
It's a very inclusive story.
And it's a very inclusive story. And it also reminds you, and let me tell you, we only learn about our past. And if you don't do this, when we reach to the next generation, they won't even remember about the 80s. So keeping this alive and going and plugging it in year after year with the different decades, the different music, and the possibilities are endless, because I know your mind. And as much as you're reluctant, and you are one of the reluctant, I say humble, but yeah, the word is reluctant. Everything I ask you, you're always like, it's like pulling teeth. But then you surprise us and you shock us, and you give the most amazing performance with all the team and the people, because I know behind you is a row of amazing team.
Starting with my wife,
Yes.
who is literally the wing. I know it sounds tacky, but it's true. She's the wind beneath my wings, really. I can't even imagine. You know, she's my staunchest ally, my biggest critic. You know, and which is great. That's what your husband or your wife should be for you, right? But you know what's special about
And
NostalgiaCon,
you also have a papi blogger.
I have a little blog, yeah,
a papi blogger.
But next week, listen,
and Angela has what is it? Hers.
she's on Instagram mostly as Tex in Miami.
Tex in Miami.
And
But didn't she have mommy?
By the way, all of our hashtags. We're gonna announce something epic next week. Unfortunately, I can't announce it today, but we have something epic to announce next week, and everybody's gonna talk about NostalgiaCon all summer long because of what we're about to announce.
That
It's
is
something no
awesome.
one's ever done at these event level.
How could someone find out more about
So they can find out by
NostalgiaCon?
going to nostalgiacon80s.com. Notice that website will be very updated over the weekend and into next week. So, and over the next couple of weeks, continuously updated. But they can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at NostalgiaCon80s. That's it.
Manny
So, at
Ruiz,
NostalgiaCon
you
80s.
always bring to our public, to the nation and to the world. You've affected a lot the rise of the Latino voice. NostalgiaCon is going to be on fire. Can't wait. September 28th and 29th. Manny Ruiz, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
880 The Biz, Bloomberg, ARTtalk with Susana Baker. God bless you. Have a safe weekend. See you next Friday.